Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Stalemate continues in US government shutdown after Democrats stand firm on healthcare demands. Trump doubles down on mass firing threats. Democrats warn such move would not stand up to legal scrutiny. India condemns the terror attack on Manchester synagogue after the terror incident leaves 2 dead. External Affairs Ministry says terror on the International Day of Non-Violence saddening. President Vladimir Putin says global economy can't function without Russian oil, warns that prices would jump to over $100 per barrel if its supplies were cut off, vows response to European threats as tensions flare. And in sports, India's Mirabai Chanu clinches a silver at World Weightlifting Championship in Norway, ends the 3-year wait for medal in the competition. And on to the details now. Stalemate continues in US government shutdown after Democrats stand firm on healthcare demands. Now, US President Donald Trump warned that federal workers could be fired and projects cut if a government shutdown continues. In an interview to US news channel, Trump said has threatened mass layoffs and proposed to make irreversible changes to important democratic programs.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place. And I will probably do that.
While taking the government shutdown as an opportunity, Trump is looking to reshape the federal workforce and punish the detractors. Now, Trump posted on social media saying he's focusing on which Democrat agencies can be slashed. The shutdown is expected to delay the release of the September U.S. jobs report, which was scheduled for Friday. And U.S. government layoffs could be in the thousands, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said on Thursday as the federal government began the second day of the shutdown. The government shutdown has suspended scientific research, financial oversight, economic data reports, and a wide range of other activities. Now, some 750,000 federal workers have been ordered not to work, while others, such as troops and border patrol agents, are ordered to work without pay.
Likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very good question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today. These discussions and these conversations, these meetings would not be happening if the Democrats had voted to keep the government open.
Also, the Senate Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and his House counterpart Hakeem Jeffries have dismissed the job cuts threat as an attempt at intimidation and said threat is not enough to force Democrats to relent on their demands for healthcare funding. Also talking to media, Jeffries said layoffs were already happening and suggests that it won't make a difference for Democrats to back down. Now, he further added that Democrats are open to talks but need credible partners.
This is day 2 of Donald Trump's shutdown, but it's day 256 of the chaos that the Trump presidency has unleashed on the American people. Republicans have shut the government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans. House Democrats continue to be here on duty. House Republicans are on vacation. We are ready, we are willing, we are able to sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, including the president and the vice president, to try to find a path forward, to reopen the government, enact a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, while at the same time addressing the Republican health care crisis.
Meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson closed the door on House Republicans entering discussions to alter the short-term spending deal passed by the House in mid-September, stating the bill's passage and the consequences, if it doesn't, are 100% the fault of Democrats.
People say, why aren't you negotiating with Schumer and Jeffries? Because I quite literally have nothing to negotiate. There's nothing I can pull out of the bill that was a Republican priority to say, oh, we won't do that. Why don't you guys vote for it now? I don't have anything. I didn't put anything in it to send it over. I'm stunned. I'm stunned that they have decided to shut the government down and hurt people. It is on them 100%.
Well, the shutdown began on Wednesday after Republicans and Democrats in Congress failed to agree a new spending plan. This is the first government shutdown in almost 7 years now, and the government shutdown, the 15th since 1981, has led to the suspension of scientific research, economic data reports, and a wide range of other activities. All right, and now we're joined by Akshay Dongre for more. Well, Akshay, day 3 today of the shutdown. Given the scale and the unknown duration of the U.S. government shutdown, how might this political impasse affect the global economic sentiment, particularly in the emerging markets?
Well, Lipakshi, if you're looking at the sort of impasse that has been created as far as this entire situation in the U.S. is concerned, we are yet to see the entire implications of this sort of tussle that's taking place between the two parties. So now that the government has gone into shutdown, and now that both the parties have realized that the differences as far as this shutdown is concerned are quite wide. They are trying to deflect blame on each other because it is going to reflect result into losses of jobs. This shutdown is going to result into people being laid off and several other complications as far as functioning of the government, social security programs, and other things. So we are now, what we are seeing is that government isn't shut down. There is no plan as of now for the government to move further, and the situation now will further complicate as the situation and the results start to reflect on the ground. So the situation remains complicated, and we are yet to see the results of this entire blockade that has resulted after the two parties cannot come to a conclusion on how to do the budgetary allocation as the fiscal year starts. So the situation remains complicated.
Right, Akshay, as you mentioned, the situation definitely is very complicated right now. But with President Trump threatening mass layoffs and cuts to the Democratic-aligned programs, do you see this shutdown as part of a broader political strategy to reshape the federal bureaucracy? And if we look at the other angle, what precedent might this set for the governance through executive pressure, as Democrats also clearly won't bend down?
Well, Lipakshi, I feel when from the signs that we have seen, this seems more like an intimidation tactic rather. The kind of we have seen how Donald Trump government, especially in second term, is working. Be it tariffs, be it other issues, the government is resorting to intimidation. Is resorting to threats. It's resorting to, in a way, blackmail. That if you don't give what we want, we are going to take an action that is going to hurt you, and we are going to get personal in that. That has happened with a lot of cases. For example, in tariffs, India was slapped with a 50% tariff just because Donald Trump wanted to. It was not a sensible decision that was made by the government, because China still buys more oil from Russia than India, but there is no tariff on China. European countries buy much more gas than India. India is not even in top contenders of the countries who buy Russian gas. But still, India was slapped with a 50% tariff. So it is all a pressure tactic, an intimidation tactic. So if you don't bow down to our will, we are going to take an action that is going to hurt you. We're going to get personal, and that is what is happening in this shutdown as well. Because Donald Trump, earlier we saw that he tried to stop funding and programs of the Democrat-ruled states. That was, unconstitutional. That was, when it comes to the bipartisan politics, it was quite low, quite a low blow, as you can call it. And now what we are seeing is that even this unemployment that is going to take place, and even the firings that will result are somewhat, there is an effort to use this politically, or rather threaten or rather, posture in a manner that the Democrats will back down. So this seems like more of an intimidation tactic, because overhaul of bureaucracy, overhaul of federal structure is not an easy take. USA is still functioning as one of the best economies in the world. It is growing, and this kind of an overhaul can really put sudden brakes on the growth of the US economy.
Absolutely. And also, if you're talking about the economy, simultaneously, Akshay, how is the stalemate over the healthcare demands influence the broader narrative of the American democratic functioning?
Well, we saw Obamacare, we saw the healthcare that the Democrat governments have programs that they have rolled out. They seem more like socialistic programs than a capitalistic structure of America. Because, if you go to US and if you have to buy a good insurance, it costs a lot of money. And if you go to a hospital, it costs a lot of money, and the public, the government hospitals are not as adequate and as functional as the private ones, and they charge a lot of money, the private ones. So it has always been considered a part of the capitalist America. But the kind of programs that were rolled out by Democrats were not being liked by the big pharma, hospitals, and all of these structures. So it seems that there is some sort of rethink about that, and it seems that the biggest tussle has become healthcare now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Akshay, for all those details. And moving on, the Wall Street closed at fresh record highs on Thursday as it was unaffected by the US government shutdown. Now, with no official government labor market data available because of the shutdown, investors were monitoring information from other sources. Also, a report from global outplacement firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas said US employers announced fewer layoffs in September, but that hiring plans so far this year were the lowest since 2009. It followed the previous day's weaker than expected ADP National Employment Report. The S&P 500 gained 0.06%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.39%. Also, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.17%. The tech sector was the biggest boost to the S&P 500 with a lot of help from chip stocks, with the broader semiconductor index also hit a record high on Thursday. Tesla shares also slid 5.1% despite higher deliveries, and Occidental dropped after Berkshire's $9.7 billion deal for its chemical unit. And in the latest, in the terrorist attack at British synagogue, police said on Thursday that the suspect in the deadly attack outside a synagogue in Manchester in northern England was believed to be Jihad al-Shami, a 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent. Now, al-Shami was shot dead by armed officers after ramming a car into pedestrians and stabbing at least one person near a synagogue during Yom Kippur. Also, the police added that 3 suspects, 2 men in their 30s and a woman in her 60s, were currently in custody and have been arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. Also, a suspicious device worn by the attacker during the incident has been assessed and was deemed not to be viable. 2 men were pronounced dead following the incident, and 3 other men remained in hospital with serious injuries. Police investigation continues to understand the motivation behind the attack as the investigation continues. Meanwhile, security has been tightened around the synagogues in the Los Angeles area on Thursday as worshippers marked Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Also, the police would increase patrols around synagogues and Jewish community centers across Los Angeles in advance of the Jewish High Holy Days. There would be increased visibility in neighborhoods, synagogues, schools and community centers to deter crime and provide reassurance. And India on Thursday condemned the deadly terror attack on a synagogue in Britain's Manchester and said it is yet another grim reminder of the challenge the world is facing from the evil forces of terrorism. MEA spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal took to social media X and I said, and I quote, "We condemn the terror attack on the Heaton Park synagogue in Manchester during Yom Kippur services today. It is particularly saddening that this heinous act was committed on the International Day of Non-Violence. This attack is yet another grim reminder of the challenge we face from the evil forces of terrorism, which the global community must combat and defeat through united and concerted action." He said India's thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families and the city of Manchester. India stands in solidarity with the people of the United Kingdom in this moment of grief, unquote. Also, the UN Secretary General has strongly condemned the deadly terrorist attack in Manchester. Deputy spokesperson Farhan Haq at UN headquarters expressed concern over the alarming rise in anti-Semitism worldwide and stressed the urgent need to confront hatred and intolerance in all their forms.
The Secretary General strongly condemns today's deadly terrorist attack on a synagogue in Manchester in the United Kingdom. Houses of worship are sacred places where people can go to find peace. Targeting a synagogue on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, is particularly heinous. The Secretary General extends his deepest condolences to the victims and their families and wishes a swift recovery to the injured. He stands in solidarity with the Jewish community and calls for those responsible to be brought to justice. The Secretary General is deeply concerned by the alarming rise in anti-Semitism worldwide and stresses the urgent need to confront hatred and intolerance in all their forms.
And still to come in DD India News Now. Russian President Vladimir Putin hails Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, calls him a wise leader. UK's Prince William opens up about family fears and plans to change monarchy. And 8 dead as protests rock Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday that the global economy would suffer without Russian oil. He was speaking at the Valdai Discussion Club, a Russian think tank and discussion forum at Sochi in southern Russia. Now, the statement came as US President Donald Trump has urged other nations to stop buying Russian oil in order to reduce Moscow's ability to fund its war in Ukraine. Now, Putin warned that prices would jump to over $100 per barrel if its supplies were cut off.
Whatever happens, I am convinced that the global sector will be working in a sustainable way because the global economy is growing. The demand in primary energy sources such as uranium for nuclear power stations, oil, gas, coal will be increasing. And that means global markets will in any case be consuming these energy resources.
Also, Russian president said that Moscow's forces were advancing on multiple fronts in Ukraine and brushed off the comment from US President Donald Trump describing Russia as a paper tiger.
As for the paper tiger thing, I have already told you that Russia has been fighting not with Ukraine and the Ukrainian armed forces, but with all the NATO countries for all these years. Our troops are advancing almost across the entire front. In the north, the group north of the Russian armed forces, the village of Yunakivka in the Sumy region has just been taken under our control, and a half of the town of Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region has been captured. I think it is a matter of time. Our soldiers will take the second half. We are creating there a security zone.
Well, Putin also promised a significant response to Europe's militarization. Relations between Russia and the European Union spiraled downward after Moscow sent troops into Ukraine, leading the bloc to bolster its defense. Now, drone incidents in Denmark and aerial incursions from Moscow in Estonia and Poland have heightened fears that Russia's war against Ukraine could spill over Europe's borders. Now, Putin accused Europe of stoking hysteria to excuse rising military spending and said Russia did not pose a threat. Commenting on potential supplies of U.S. long-range missiles Tomahawk to Ukraine, Putin warned this would worsen already battered relations between Washington and Moscow.
It's dangerous. As for Tomahawks, they are a powerful weapon. Granted, they are not exactly modern anymore, but they are powerful and pose a threat. And of course, this won't change the balance of power on the battlefield at all.
Also, President Putin condemned France's detention of a Russian-linked ship as piracy, vowing a significant response to what he called European threats as tension flared. Now, the Russian leader's warning came after the French Navy on Saturday detained and boarded an oil tanker that has been blacklisted by the European Union for being part of Russia's sanction-busting shadow fleet. At this stage, the vessel is only being investigated over inconsistencies in where it was officially registered.
This is piracy. I am familiar with this case. The tanker was seized in international waters without any justification, and they were apparently searching for some kind of cargo, maybe military equipment, drones, or something similar. There's nothing there, and there never was, and there can't be. And the tanker is indeed flying the flag of a third country, and the crew is international.
Well, amidst all this, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday hailed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, calling him a wise leader. Speaking at the plenary session of the Valdai Discussion Club in Sochi, Putin mentioned that Russia and Russia both share a special relationship. Putin, as quoted by Russia Today, said, "People in India do not forget about India-Russia relations." He added that some 15 years ago, both nations made an announcement about a privileged strategic partnership, and that is the best description. And moving on, Germany's Munich airport has reopened after overnight closure due to drone sightings. The incident is the latest in a string of similar aviation disruptions across Europe. Airports in Denmark, Norway and Poland have recently suspended flights over unidentified drones, while Romania and Estonia have pointed the finger at Russia, which has brushed off the allegations. Now, nearly 3,000 passengers were grounded as 17 departing flights were cancelled on Thursday night, while 15 arriving flights were diverted to other cities. German authorities have launched a search to identify the origin of the drones. The incident comes ahead of the final weekend of Germany's Oktoberfest, which draws hundreds of thousands of people every day to Munich. And the New Zealand government have announced on changing defence procurement rules and introducing a new military technology fund in an effort to boost the local defence sector as government spending is set to increase. The New Zealand government said earlier this year it would boost defence spending by $5 billion over the next 4 years and aim to nearly double the spending to 2% as a share of gross domestic product in the next 8 years due to growing concerns about strategic competition. The government will introduce a new $58.15 million to $174.45 million fund to develop advanced technologies for military use by the Defence Force. Also, the strategy includes plans to present a new defense capability plan every 2 years, with the next plan due in the year 2027. And Britain is building sensors to counter lasers that adversaries might use to blind satellites or intercept and interrupt communications. Now, the UK government said it will spend more than $672,750 on the project, which involves UK Space Command and the UK Space Agency. A UK government-commissioned security review published this summer said Britain urgently needs to bolster defences for military space systems as adversaries improve their own abilities to attack in space. Now, the Strategic Defence Review called for Britain to invest in its own space capabilities, along with intelligence and navigation networks as well as satellite communications, as militaries depend on satellites for communication, surveillance and guidance data for troops, warships and weapons. And Argentina's Congress overturns President Milei's vetoes on public spending. This marks a major political setback for the leader. Now, Milei faces economic troubles and a falling peso ahead of key elections. The US is negotiating financial aid to help stabilize the economy. Also, the critics call the funding debate political and moral, reflecting urgent public needs. Health workers and students welcome the vote with hope for better services. And demonstrations enter their 6th day in Morocco, with people demanding better healthcare and education. The protest turned more serious after 3 people were killed in clashes with the police. In cities like Rabat and Casablanca, rallies remained peaceful. The movement, driven by a youth group online, says it rejects violence. Also, the Prime Minister is now urging dialogue as tensions rise. Government officials say they are ready to talk and promise reforms. And UK's Prince William opens up about family fears and plans to change monarchy. Prince said protecting his family was the most important matter for him following the illnesses of his wife Kate and father King Charles, while revealing he will seek to modernize the monarchy when he becomes the sovereign power. Speaking on Canadian actor's travel show, Prince William said he sometimes felt a bit overwhelmed by family matters and vowed to keep his children safe from any excessive intrusion from the media. The unusually candid remarks from William reveals a deeply personal commitment to both his family's well-being and the future of the monarchy. And moving on, protesters marched in Karachi on Thursday following a spate of violence in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir region. Demonstrations from the Awami Action Committee took to the streets, calling upon the government to accept the demands. At least 8 people have been killed in 4 days of violent protest in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The authorities have since cut off phone links and internet access to the region. Violent clashes between demonstrators and police have not abated since the protest began on Monday. Well, the death toll in a school collapse on Indonesia's main island of Java rose to 7 on Friday after 2 bodies were pulled from the building's ruins. Now, part of the multi-story boarding school in the town of Sidoarjo collapsed suddenly on Monday as students gathered for afternoon prayers, leaving rescuers racing to find dozens missing in the rubble. Officials had said 59 people were feared missing before the 2 bodies were found. Distraught families have been waiting anxiously near the site for news of their loved ones. Investigations into the cause of the collapse are continuing, but initial signs pointed to substandard construction. Well, a major fire tore through a machinery and construction tools store in the central Rayong in Thailand. The fire quickly intensified, escalating the risk to the neighbouring petrol station. Emergency services struggled for hours to control the blaze as it spread dangerously close to an adjacent petrol station. Reports indicated ongoing explosions from chemical containers within the fire zone. No injuries have been reported so far. And now on to some global weather updates. Typhoon Matmo intensified as it made landfall in northern Philippines on Friday morning local time, where it's forecast to dump heavy rain, with the nation still reeling from the impact of two deadly typhoons in the past 2 weeks. Now, flash flooding can occur well inland and away from the storm center. Even weaker storms can produce excessive rainfall that can flood low-lying areas. Matmo will enter the South China Sea after hitting the Philippines and intensify into a typhoon, bringing winds and showers to Hong Kong over the weekend. Also, the forecasters say the storm will continue strengthening after entering the East Sea on October 4th. It is expected to hit coastal area of neighboring Guangdong province of China on Sunday before moving northwest into the Guangxi region and eventually dissipating around Yunnan province in southwestern China next week. And the Indian Meteorological Department has predicted snowfall a higher reaches of Jammu and Kashmir from October 5th to 7th. It also said that light to moderate rainfall will hit the region from Saturday due to an active western disturbance. Heavy snowfall is likely to take place in the higher reaches like Anantnag, Pahalgam, Kulgam, Sinthan Pass, Shupiyan, Pir Ki Gali, Sonamarg, Jozila, Bandipura, Rajasthan Pass, Gulmarg and Kupwara Sadhna Pass. Further light snow is predicted over middle reaches. IMD further predicted moderate to heavy rain over the plains of Kashmir and isolated heavy to very heavy rain over Jammu division. And Taylor Swift is in a new sparkling era. On Friday, she dropped her 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, a collection of bouncy pop songs about love, marriage, success and score settling. For the much anticipated album, the 35-year-old artist reunited with Swedish hitmakers Max Martin and Shellback, and their influence is clear in the driving beats and catchy hooks. Showgirl represents a departure from her recent work, the folksy pandemic era folklore and even more, evermore in 2020, the pensive midnights in 2022 and the introspective tortured poets last year. Well, the Swifties will also cram into movie theatres worldwide all weekend for special screenings featuring the Ophelia video, behind-the-scenes footage and the so-called lyric videos when a song's lyrics are featured on screen. The one-off cinematic event is estimated to cross between $30 to $50 million, according to film industry website Deadline. Swift then hits the talk show circuit next week to promote the album. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India and China to resume direct air services by the end of October. Celebrating 11 years of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's monthly radio program, Man Ki Baat. And North India's 4 holy shrines in Uttarakhand set for ceremonial winter closure in October-November.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said India's goal is to become Viksit Bharat by the year 2047 through self-reliance and not by closing its economy. Finance Minister was addressing the inauguration of the 4th edition of Kautilya Economic Conclave in New Delhi on Friday. She said the outcomes of the conclave have not only helped us in policy making, but also in holding global conferences. The G20 of 2023 stands out as a classic example. Finance Minister stressed the need to sustain 8% GDP growth to achieve this target. She warned of unprecedented global volatility shaping the world as the global economy is trying to recover from from uncertainty. She also said that the post-Cold War globalization era is fading and rules of international engagement are being rewritten. Minister also said that India aims to position itself effectively in this shifting global order.
Honorable Prime Minister has actually set the two-track in motion, one being reaching by 2047 a position where you're able to say that you're a developed country. Vikasit Bharat. If that is one of the track, the other track is how do you reach that unless you are Atmanirbhar, unless you're self-reliant.
And moving on, India and China will resume direct air services by the end of October, aligning with the winter schedule. The civil aviation authorities of the two countries have been engaged in discussions on resuming direct air services between the two countries and on a revised air services agreement. Now, following these discussions, it has now been agreed that direct air services connecting designated points in India and China can resume by late October. This agreement will facilitate people-to-people contacts between India and China, contributing to the gradual normalization of bilateral exchanges. Meanwhile, Indigo is set to reconnect India with mainland China. Starting October 26, the carrier will resume daily non-stop flights between Kolkata and Guangzhou. Indigo will deploy its Airbus A320neo aircraft on the route with plans to launch a Delhi-Guangzhou service once approvals come through. And a senior executive from semiconductor champion ASML praised Prime Minister Modi for his attentiveness to investors and willingness to listen. Also during Politico's competitive Europe summit in Brussels on Wednesday, ASML executive Frank Heemskerk criticized the EU for being inaccessible to European companies. He highlighted a recent two-hour meeting between ASML's CEO and the Indian Prime Minister. Heemskerk said, and I quote, "After an hour and a half of listening, Prime Minister Modi said, 'You're too friendly, tell me what we can do better,' unquote." Heemskerk urged EU leaders to engage more directly with companies investing in Europe's future, emphasizing the importance of strong public-private dialogue. And the United Nations Security Council has approved travel ban exemptions for Afghanistan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi to visit India in October. The Foreign Minister of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, Amir Khan Muttaqi, is expected to visit India on 10th of October after the United Nations Security Council approved an exemption to the travel ban imposed on the Taliban leader. A waiver was sought for Muttaqi's visit late last month from the 1988 Sanctions Committee under the UNSC. However, it was not granted due to lack of consensus amongst the members. Also, under Security Council Resolution 1988, certain individuals linked to the Taliban are subject to travel bans. However, the resolution allows the Council to grant exemptions for official duties or medical reasons. And the electronics component manufacturing scheme announced by the Indian government has seen an overwhelming response, significantly exceeding its initial targets. This was announced at a press briefing by the IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw in New Delhi on Thursday. The scheme has been introduced by the Modi government to boost domestic electronics manufacturing and make India a global giant in electronics. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports for more.
The Electronics Component Manufacturing Scheme, ECMS, has seen an overwhelming response. The scheme has attracted investment applications worth over 1.15 lakh crore rupees, approximately 13.8 billion US dollars, which is nearly double the initial target of 59,350 crore rupees. The projected production outcome from the applications is over 10.34 lakh crore rupees compared to a target of 4.5 lakh crore rupees.
Very ambitious target we had taken of 59,350 crore rupees investment we have received applications for 1,15,351 crore. Against a production target of 4,56,500 crore, 4.5 lakh crore, we have received production estimates more than 10 lakh crore, 10,34,000 crore. So that is more than double what we had targeted.
Electronics Component Manufacturing Scheme was officially notified on April 8, 2025. The guidelines and online portal were launched on April 26, with the application window opening on May 1 this year. The scheme is also expected to generate 1.41 lakh jobs, well above the initial target of 91,600 jobs.
Employment, we had targeted 91,600 persons. Here the employment which is expected is 1.5 times at 1,41,000 persons employment.
For the first time, India is set to see investments in advanced areas like SMD passives, laminates, flexible PCBs, anodes, and capital equipment. The application window for most products has closed, but the segment for capital equipment remains open for fresh applications until April 2027. Vishal Barristo's report for DD India.
And in a tragic incident in central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, at least 11 people, including children, died after a tractor trolley carrying 14 devotees fell off a small bridge into the river in Khandwa district on Thursday. Now, the devotees were returning from Durga idol immersion when the accident occurred. Rescue efforts were launched immediately after the accident, with police, administrative officials and locals rushing to the site. A JCB machine was deployed to pull the trolley out. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over the incident and announced financial assistance for the kin of the deceased. Also, in a condolence message on social media platform X, Prime Minister Modi said he was deeply saddened by the loss of lives. The Prime Minister announced an ex gratia of 200,000 rupees from PMNRF would be given to the next of the kin of each deceased. The injured would be given 50,000 rupees. Also, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Jadhav also expressed grief over the incident and announced ex gratia of 400,000 rupees each for the families of the deceased. And moving on, a violent clash broke out between two groups of students at Jawaharlal Nehru University campus on Friday during a Visarjan Shobha Yatra organized on the occasion of Vijay Dashmi following the 9-day Navratri celebrations. According to JNU-SU Joint Secretary Vaibhav Meena, the Jawaharlal Nehru University Students' Union had called for a symbolic Ravan Dahan at Sabarmati, targeting what they described as Naxal-like forces. The ABVP alleged that left-wing students hurled stones and wooden blocks at the procession and physically assaulted a female participant.
हमारी शोभा यात्रा विसर्जन का चल रहा था, कैंपस में हम घूम रहे थे तो साबरमती टी पॉइंट पर इन लेफ्ट की पार्टी ने एक पुतला दहन का या ऐसे एफिजी बनने का कुछ जो भी रखा हो, ये सब लोग वहां उपस्थित थे, लेकिन ये लोग चाहते थे कि शोभा यात्रा में ये विघ्न पैदा करें। उन्होंने चेंज करके वो साबरमती टी पॉइंट पर आए क्योंकि वो शोभा यात्रा में खलल डाल सके। हम जब रावण दहन किया उसके बाद शोभा यात्रा निकलती, हमारी शोभा यात्रा साबरमती टी पॉइंट पर पहुंचती है, इन लेफ्टिस्टों के द्वारा अब एक वुडन प्लेट से लकड़ियों के हाथ में या उनके हाथ में जो जूते थे, चप्पल थी, उन्होंने शोभा यात्रा में पथराव किया। वहां पे गहमा गहमी हुई। हमारे जो शोभा यात्रा में छात्र शामिल थे उनको वहां पे चोट आई है।
Well, the date for the ceremonial closure of the 4 holy shrines in North India's Uttarakhand was announced on the occasion of Vijay Dashmi. The portals of the Kedarnath shrine will be ceremoniously closed for the winter season on October 23rd this year, while Badrinath shrine will be closed for the winter in November. According to the official announcement, the portals of Gangotri shrine will also be closed for the winters on October 22nd, while the Yamunotri shrine will be closed on the 23rd of October. After the portals are closed, devotees will be able to offer prayers at Mukhwa for Gangotri and Kharsali for Yamunotri for the next 6 months. Meanwhile, the Char Dham Yatra is continuing with great enthusiasm in its final phase. Since April 30th this year, more than 4.5 million devotees have visited the Char Dham shrines. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi's monthly radio program, Mann Ki Baat, completes 11 years today. The program continues to inspire, educate and empower millions. Watch this special report by DD India's Tripti Tripathi.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, नमस्कार।
Since its launch in October 2014, Mann Ki Baat has become a landmark platform for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to directly connect with the people of India.
बेंगलुरु से सिस्टर सुरेखा जी भी जुड़ी हुई।
I am really proud and honored, sir, to speak to Prime Minister of our country.
दिनेश जी नमस्कार।
सर जी प्रणाम।
Beginning on Vijay Dashami, the monthly broadcast has touched millions of lives. Every episode brings stories of inspiration from rural development and social reforms to unsung heroes shaping the nation. Over the years, the program, aired on All India Radio and Doordarshan, has gone beyond being just a broadcast. It recognizes collective efforts happening across society and gives them a national platform.
देश की बेटियां हर जगह अपना परचम लहरा रही है। दिलना और रूपा, आपसे मैं जानना चाहूंगा कि आपकी जो सागर परिक्रमा में आपका एक्सपीरियंस देश सुनना चाहता है।
मेमोरेबल मोमेंट में बोलना चाहती हूँ सर कि हमने भारत की झंडा पॉइंट नीमो पर लहराया सर।
What started as a simple radio program has transformed into a people's movement. Campaigns like Vocal for Local and Har Ghar Tiranga gained momentum after being featured on Mann Ki Baat. When the program completed its 100th episode in April 2023, Prime Minister Narendra Modi remarked that any issue raised here soon takes shape of a mass movement.
मेरे लिए मन की बात ये एक कार्यक्रम नहीं है। मेरे लिए एक आस्था, पूजा, व्रत है।
The show also reflects how India's cultural influence resonates globally.
आप दुनिया के किसी भी कोने में चले जाएं, वहां आपको भारतीय संस्कृति का प्रभाव देखने को जरूर मिलेगा। और ये प्रभाव केवल दुनिया के बड़े शहरों तक सीमित नहीं है, बल्कि इसे छोटे-छोटे शहरों में भी देखा जा सकता है। इटली के एक छोटे से शहर कैंप रोतोंडो में ऐसा ही देखने को मिला है। यहाँ महर्षि वाल्मीकि जी की प्रतिमा का अनावरण किया गया।
11 years on, Mann Ki Baat stands as a mirror to India's progress and diversity, uniting people through shared stories, fostering pride, and strengthening the spirit of collective purpose. Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
Well, in the past 24 hours, Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has witnessed significant unrest despite the commencement of negotiations between the Pakistan government and the Jammu Kashmir Awami Action Committee. Now, in key developments, tensions escalated after reported civilian killings, leading to angry protesters in Sahensa burning police vans and bulldozers. Protests intensified in Sahensa, where demonstrators targeted state property, setting police vehicles and bulldozers ablaze in the retaliation for the recent civilian deaths. Protesters have established a blockade at the Arja Bridge, disrupting movement and signaling widespread discontent towards the authorities. The town of Kotli observed a complete shutdown, with businesses and transport halted as a mark of protest against the state's action. Major areas including Azad Patan and Palandari continue to witness ongoing demonstrations, with crowds voicing their demands and grievances despite the government's negotiation attempts. Also, the overall situation remains tense, with civil unrest persisting and the public expressing deep resentment against state authorities in the multiple POJK regions. And India's Vishal Baristo joins us for more on this. Well, Vishal, the situation is very, very tense out there. What is the latest from the ground?
Well, Paksha, as I speak to you, the situation continues to be tense. Incidents of civil unrest, vandalism, burning of police vans and attack on the police continues in the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And people are not very happy with the killings of the civilians by the Pakistan police and army. And especially in areas like Sahinsa, situation is very, very tense. So the authorities are trying very hard, but they have not been able to suppress the unrest, and they are voicing their feelings against the administration, against the government of Pakistan.
Right. Also, Vishal, the town of Kotli has observed a complete shutdown, as we can also see in the visuals we're showing to our viewers right now, with businesses and transport halted totally. What is the situation there?
Well, absolutely a complete shutdown in Kotli, and the unrest continues. Any shop, you will not a single shop is open there. There is no business transactions. The traffic is not flowing normally. There has been repeated incidents of violence, and this is a reflection of the public unrest. People are not happy in the occupied area of Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistan.
All right. Thank you so much, Vishal, for that update from there. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some sports news now. Opener KL Rahul and captain Shubman Gill part India into the commanding position against West Indies on the second day of the first test in Ahmedabad on Friday. Now, the duo added over 90 runs for the third wicket to overcome West Indies' first innings score of 162 runs. The hosts resumed the innings at 121 runs with a loss of 2 wickets, trailing by 41 runs. Earlier, a depleted West Indies won the toss and opted to bat. Indian seamers Mohammad Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah ripped through the batting lineup to claim 7 wickets between them and dismissed the tourist for 162 runs. And India's Mirabai Chanu clinched a silver in the women's 48 kg category at the World Weightlifting Championship in Norway. Mirabai Chanu managed a total of 199 kg in clean and jerk event to secure the second place in Ford City. Gold medal went to defending world champion Ri Songam of South Korea, while Thailand's Thanathorn Sakacherion won the bronze medal. Now, the win ended India's 3-year wait for a medal in the competition. Also, India added 2 more medals to their tally at the World Para Athletic Championship in New Delhi, with Dharamveer Nain clinching silver while Atul Kaushik securing bronze. 36-year-old Dharamveer produced his best on the final attempt, throwing 29.71 meter to seal silver in the men's club throw F51 event. Serbia's Alexander Radestic struck gold, while Ulad Zizlau Hirbiau claimed bronze. Earlier, India's Atul Kaushik earned a bronze medal in the men's discus throw F57 class event with an effort of 45.61 meter. Libya's Mahmoud Rajab secured gold, while Brazil's Thiago Paulino dos Santos took silver. The results took India's overall tally to 11 medals, including 4 gold, 5 silver and 2 bronze. And Tejaswini Singh won a silver medal in the women's 25-meter pistol event as India capped off a successful week at the Junior Shooting World Cup in New Delhi by topping the medals tally. Tejaswini Singh lost the final to Alexandra Tikhonova, while Italy's Alessandra Faith completed the podium with bronze. In the 25-meter pistol men individual event, junior world champion Mukesh Nelavali from India finished with gold. Alexander Kovalev took silver, while Sahil Chaudhary ensured another medal for India with bronze. India finished the tournament with 26 medals, including 8 gold, 10 silver and 8 bronze. The 11th edition of the competition, had the first ever hosted in India, featured 208 shooters from 19 federations. And Namibia and Zimbabwe sealed their places at the 2026 T20 Cricket World Cup with victories in their respective semi-finals of the African qualifiers in Harare. Namibia eased it to a 63-run victory over Tanzania thanks to an unbeaten 61 runs by J.J. Smith, who also returned with figures of 3 wickets for 16 runs in 4 overs. Zimbabwe made light work of a target of 123 to defeat Kenya by 7 wickets, with informed batter Brian Bennett smashing 51 runs from 25 deliveries. Namibia and Zimbabwe will meet in Saturday's final of the African qualifiers. 17 of the 20 places at the World Cup have been taken, with the 3 remaining teams to come with the Asia-Pacific region qualifiers that start in Oman next week. Well, the tournament is scheduled in February in India and Sri Lanka. And with the sound of drums, the swirl of colours and the hearts full of devotion, devotees in India bid farewell to Goddess Durga. From fasting and prayers to vibrant rituals like Sindoor Khela, Navaratri reminds us of the power of faith, community and renewal. As the lights dim on this year's celebrations, the spirit of joy, strength and togetherness carries on. Take a look. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.